It is still the spooky season, and that means I've watched another spooky movie. Pet Sematary, which, if you've been following sort of the course of action, you should know that I've been watching the Pet Sematary films in preparation for Bloodline. So, this is the remake of Pet Sematary from just a few years ago. It has audio description on Paramount Plus. And yeah, so that was easy. Glad I didn't have to search for that one. It's on the same streaming service that the sequel is being launched on, so that's just really satisfying to just know it's there. And it stars Jason Clarke and Jason Clarke, basically. I mean, he's technically the lead role, but it also has John Lithgow in it, which he's playing Judd this time around, and they've changed Judd up a little bit. But maybe that's for the better. Maybe this film is better. This is the best Pet Sematary film so far. Let's talk about it. So, in case you don't know what Pet Sematary is, it's the story of a family that moves to a town and buys a house. And that house is freakishly close to a pet cemetery. But behind the pet cemetery is a little plot of land where if you bury the dead will come back and bury you. Basically, that's kind of the premise. So the remake here goes for some good and some bad things, mostly good, that are changes. It literally, some people sat down and they analyzed probably, I think, the first two Pet Sematary films, and they're like, what works here and what doesn't work, and then they kind of hodgepodged it together. One of the things that I like that works a whole lot better here, and I should say this comes with slight spoilers. I will try to avoid any major spoilers in case you want to catch up on Pet Sematary, is that in here, there are the dead, when they're buried, come back at a higher functioning level, I should say, much like they did in Pet Sematary 2, which some people are like, that's not a good sequel. It's like, it's so much better because it makes so much more sense. It was so weird in Pet Sematary, the original one, when the little boy that can barely talk and says like one word sentences comes back and suddenly knows how to like operate a phone and is speaking in like full and complete sentences. I'm like, well, he leveled up, so I mean he's possessed now by somebody with higher intelligence. I don't know, like it's just it's so weird. And then they didn't really do too much of that with any of the other characters. Everybody was just kind of like insta-death, you know? I mean, they didn't really go, it didn't really slide up. It was just kind of like, it walked everybody right back into like, oh, everybody comes back just to kill you. Pet Sematary 2 kind of goes back into they come back different, which I think was a lot better. Just to, like, was it really worth it? You know, let's find out. And that kind of tone, I think, worked better in the sequel. And that's kind of the tone that the remake takes, which is, did this work for you? Is this are you happy with this new revival that you've created, sir? Is this what you wanted? Also, props to these new directors for not having a truck driving past the house every 5 fucking seconds. Oh my Jesus. That was one of the things about the first film, is it was so prominent that I was like, why does anyone live here? Not just the people, not just this family with kids, right? But it's like that house that lives way too close to the train tracks, and you're like, why? Why are you doing? And like everybody in the house like has to like hold their stuff together, you know, like they're like the train's coming, hold, hold everything to the walls, you know. Yeah, I mean, they were like constantly, and there was never a car in the first film. There was just always a semi for some reason. There was just a semi after semi after semi after semi. So, in this film, because there isn't a constant barrage of semis, and some of the stuff happens off screen, it's a lot more. Uh, it makes more sense and a lot more resonant when it actually happens. You know, like it's not as silly as the first film. The first film was way overdoing it, and Mary Lambert was like, "Yes, this is what we need to be doing. This is awesome." And I'm like, "No, you're setting directors back. No." Um, yeah, so the heavy-handedness of that direction is gone, and we're left much more with a suggestiveness. I still wish, I guess this is a little bit more of a spoiler, but I still wish Rachel just didn't have backstory. I just like, I don't know if that's a Stephen King thing, but if it is, fuck it. Tell him he's stupid and move on with his life. Move on with your life. Be like, Rachel does not need a backstory in this film. It makes the film bizarre. Like, to be like, it makes the film weird. Like, beyond all recognition. I thought it was weird in the first film. I was like, why does she have this backstory? You know, it's not relevant at all to the plot of the film, and she has this like weird sort of like exorcist backstory where she was like a little kid watching her aunt die. She in the original she's watching like an old lady die. In this film she's watching like her older sister die, and it's just neither one of them work. It doesn't really matter if you change the age of the character that she's watching die. It feels like she's in a possession movie, but it has no bearing or basis on anything else that happens in the film. And it's not like they sell Rachel as like the homecoming girl, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm home, guys. I used to live here and I'm back. Oh my god, look at the town I used to live in. This is the house that I used to live in. Oh, I can't go in that room because that's the room where my sister died. Like, all of that would make a lot more sense. Instead, she just has a backstory for no real reason whatsoever, and it never works. It is the dumbest fucking thing in cinematic history. Close to it. Pretty close. Actually, the dumbest part about it is that somebody actually watched the first film and they were like, yes, this is amazing. We should keep this. However, but what we need to do is just change the age of the person that's haunting her. What if she was younger? That's not the problem. The problem is that it's dumb and it doesn't work. That's the problem. That's the problem with the film, is that Rachel does not need a backstory. The film has a premise, you know? And why are they constantly like seeing ghosts and shit? Is their house haunted? You know, the whole town uses his pet cemetery, right? Like, Judd lives literally across the street and has been walking over to the pet cemetery. Is he seeing ghosts all the time? Like, what the fuck is up with this film? Stop making it more complicated than it actually is. If your premise does not work, it is not scary enough on its own that you have to add shit that doesn't make any sense, then stop making movies about it. If you can't make a coherent plot out of the basic premise that you've set up, then stop adding other things that make no sense and have no relevance to the film. Damn. I'm tired of this. I've seen 2 movies in the past couple of days that make the same mistakes that do absolutely nothing for this series. It's just, you put shit in the ground, it comes back, and that is what this film is about. Shit dies, you go, no, I don't want it to die. I'm gonna bury it back where I was told not to bury it and see what happens. And then terrifying things should happen. You don't need to be haunted by ghosts. Why is he haunted by a random ghost from a random kid that he met for all of 5 seconds before he died in the hospital? Why is this still a thing? After both of these films, in both films, he's haunted by this random kid. Why? Why? They never explain it. There's no explanation for it. He's just, I see ghosts now because I'm this town. I live here now, and it's a ghost town, I guess. Do something with it, then. Cool. Let's do it. And then this film even suggests that the little kid, who's by the way a lot younger in this film, our little one is he's real little now. They decided to not even make him. He can't even walk around to the back of the station wagon and say cat. You know, like this little one is a real little one. He's still in a crib. It suggests that he was seeing ghosts too. I'm like, he can't even process what he's seeing. He's so young. You know what I'm saying? He's like a baby in this film, and the baby's like, oh, I see a ghost. Oh shit. Why? Is the house haunted? Like, was it built on an Indian burial ground as well? Do a better job of explaining things. Random cancer woman seems to be gone. That was a good choice, or at least severely reduced in terms of her significance to the plot. Judd is his introduction is better, and there are things that this film does better where it's like we don't have that awkward conversation where Judd's just kind of like coming over and it's like, nah, say, cats have webs strolling into the road and getting hit. You want to try to get your cat fixed so he doesn't wander. Fixed cats tend to not wander so much. And then the awkward exchange when Lewis just goes, yeah, thanks. I'll think about it. I was like, you'll think about getting your cat fixed? Poor Bob Barker. He worked so long, so hard to get people. I guess he just didn't reach somebody like Lewis. Lewis seems like so abrasive to the idea of having a cat that, you know, it's just walking around repopulating the world. In the first film, but in this film, they're just like, yeah, we're just, maybe he already is, I don't know, and Church is not really a major character in this film at all. Church is like, they're like, we have a cat. Oh, we don't have a cat. Oh, damn. What do we do with this cat? Come with me, I'll show you where the pet cemetery is. Yeah, so I also thought it's really interesting some small choices that they made. Like, in this film, Judd's dog's name is Biff instead of Spot. And I'm like, that's a choice. Somebody was like, no, nobody names their dog Spot anymore. What's a name? It's a really popular dog name. I'm gonna go with Biff. Biffer the Sniffer. It's just... You know, it is actually a reference to the first film, but it was a different, like, there was a headstone. I remember, thanks to the audio description in the first film, when they were going through the graves, there was a grave that said, like, here lies Biffer, he was a good sniffer, or something like that. So, it is a reference to the first film, but that was not the dog that Judd talks about in the first film. The other dog was Spot. He's like, that's why I bury my dog Spot. But Judd voice. So I don't know why he has a different dog now, but cool. I like that in general, that this film doesn't have 1,000 flashbacks that are unnecessary to help strengthen the plot. I like that there are things that are alluded to, which is obviously what Bloodline is going to be about. we're exploring some of those what would normally be a flashback in a prequel film instead of, you know, in a in a I don't know, 30-second flashback sequence. I love that random ghost faces don't just pop out of nowhere like they do in the first film, which aren't even like, they weren't even scary in the first film. They were more just like, you know, like he's Louis trying to bury something, and suddenly like Judd's face flew out of a lake. It was like, no. It's like, where? What is this? I know in the 80s we didn't quite have a grasp of filmmaking like we do, but still, come on now. You know, just choices. You know, I mean, we had made some pretty good films by the 80s, but damn, Pet Sematary was just... I'm not enthused by the director of Pet Sematary 1 and 2, ever. And, just so many bad directing choices. The weird sounds, you know, the weird sound design of the first film is gone, and now we just have a straight up sound design. The film has a much more serious tone to it, and it makes a lot more sense. There's a couple things that if they could have just changed it and had the courage to just tell Stephen King no, and be like, no, this is dumb. I don't know why you put this in here. I'm not reusing it. Rachel doesn't need a backstory. We don't need to keep doing that. I don't know why there are ghosts. We can't possibly explain why he's haunted or why this house is haunted. So we're just not going to have ghosts. Because if you don't explain that the house is haunted, or that the house itself is also on Indian burial or something, then it's just like, why are they haunted? Why did they move to this town and suddenly they're being haunted by ghosts? Why would a ghost of somebody who they just met try to give them like a heads up, you know? Why would they be the one to give them the rules of how things work? It just doesn't, like, nobody has stopped to go, does this actually make sense? I don't care if Stephen King wrote it in a book. I really don't care. Not everything he's written has been fucking perfect. So it really doesn't matter. There are some things that didn't work in the first film, and they were like, yeah, we're going to try to make them work again here in this remake. No, just remake it and make it better. That should be the reason for doing a remake. Is to actually, because there are plenty of things that they threw away and that they changed that they are not doing from the first film to this film. And those things work. They made some really good changes. Some really surprising changes. I think people will like this film. I think there are some really creepy elements. The ending is a lot. The ending is definitely, you know, it's a choice. I'll say that it's a choice. So, but yeah, there's definitely stuff here that is just shot better. It's definitely, I would say it's probably better acted. I don't know. I love to make fun of the original Judd, but he did what he could with what he was given. John Lithgow's Judd just has a little bit of a different flavor here, and isn't so. There aren't like scenes of him like hanging out with the family as much, and he doesn't just like kind of become part of the family. I love the weird masks thing that happens. That's weird, but yeah, I mean, there's some choices that I like that are better in this film, which is why I think overall it's a better film. But damn, it could have been so much better. This film is way better directed, way better shot, and just everything. Like the cast is solid. I mean, they were headed in the right direction, but then they just get wrapped up in some of these things that they feel like maybe because they're in the book that they have to. They're like, oh, everybody's waiting for this. No one is waiting for that. If they are, then I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. They shouldn't be waiting for this. They need to go watch other films. They need there you if you can't recognize bad writing, writing that goes nowhere, writing that isn't tethered to anything, writing that has no purpose, then I don't know. Read different books. Expand your horizons. Um, I haven't read Pet Cemetery, but I'm assuming that these things that keep getting repeated, they feel like they have to repeat them because they're in the book. No, 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 no. You know what? There's no fucking orgy in it. They left that out. They were like, you know, both times, in both versions of it, they were like, you know what? We're just not gonna have these kids have an orgy. We're just gonna leave that out. Because you know what? Stephen King's an idiot, and he wrote this orgy scene, and it's dumb, and we're not gonna have it. We're gonna move on. So, and no one who watched either version of it was like, "Where's my orgy scene? Stephen King wrote an orgy, and I came here for the orgy. This is ruining my film." Nobody is gonna watch a Pet Cemetery film and be like, "Where's Rachel's backstory?" It's so integral to the plot. It's not integral to the plot. It has no relevance or bearing on the plot at all. She's not even the lead. Lewis is the lead. You're haunting a side character. I obviously have a lot of thoughts. This brand seems angrier than it is because I had to watch. I've watched now 3 Pet Cemetery movies in a row, and I'm seeing tropes that are being used within this franchise, and I wish I could tell people to stop, you know, just stop doing dumb shit, because your film is so close to being good. This film is better than the original. It has some decent ideas, some decent acting, some decent scares, and I want that to reflect upon the fact that I think it's a better film. I did give the original Pet Cemetery and Pet Cemetery 2 both C pluses. Here, the narration, I actually like the narrator's voice. I don't know who it is. Paramount Plus is not a service that lets me watch credits. But he was kind of creepy. I liked it. It was it's a lot of the same flavor that I get out of William Michael Redmond when he does horror films. Why I like him on horror films is that there's a little bit of an element of his voice that's a little creepy. This guy kind of came in with that flavor too, and I was like, ooh, I like this. I like that he's like, yeah, we got this coming in here. We're coming up on a sign. It says Pet Cemetery. Yeah. I was like, ooh. I don't know, it just felt kind of like, it felt like he knew he was doing audio description for a horror film, and was like, yeah, we're going to be kind of creepy here. A little suggestive with my narration. Maybe it's just his voice. I don't know. But I thought it was good. As far as the gore goes, shockingly, this film is not as gory as you would expect it to be. But it still has moments that will make you cringe and moments that will make you go, you know, that need to be well described. You're definitely going to be worried about what's under your bed for a while, which is true of both films, by the way. Yeah, so it properly fills things in, and makes some really good choices, some really good descriptive choices. I liked the out of context, this isn't going to make any sense, but again, I'm trying not to spoil the whole damn thing. The staples, I thought that was a nice touch, seeing the staples. So, yes, many good audio description choices here, and I felt like I was able to follow the film the way that I should have. The beginning sequence was maybe not quite as fun the first time around, but it was still really well described. I still had opening credits. I was still told about the Pet Cemetery sign. It's just the way that we see the cemetery is not the same way that we saw it in the original. There are these weird kids with masks who like go up there, and they're just kind of like crosses and stuff for the various animals that have been buried. So there isn't anything silly like a goldfish bowl or a bird cage. And there aren't all these different stones that were read to us with all these different little writings on them, which is what we had in the first film. So the opening sequence was perhaps more interesting originally, which is how I picked up on the Biff thing. I remember that Biffer the sniffer. Biffer was a really good sniffer or whatever from being one of the headstones in the first film. And that's where we got that. But yeah, so it's it's a little bit better. We improved the film. I think the remake is better than the original. I think it could have been better. Choices. You gotta make better choices. But I'm gonna give Pet Cemetery, the remake, a B-, because it still is trapped in some of the tropes from that it needs to shed that make absolutely no sense and have no bearing on the actual film itself. And we could have spent more time with the actual concept of the Pet Cemetery and what the Pet Cemetery brings and what the Pet Cemetery does. Instead, we have all these side weird hauntings that nobody really ever explains. If you'd gotten rid of those, probably would have shot the film way up to the top. But God, it really just brings the film down to have unexplained backstories and hauntings. Like, why? At least I don't have Ellie's weird psychic phone, where she's like calling her dad and she's like, Dad, I had a dream. And like her dream is exactly what happened to her dad. And it's like, why is Ellie psychic? Why? Why is Ellie psychic? Are we not going to explain this? Anyway, if you're going to do something, explain it and make it work. If you want Rachel to be haunted, make it the same damn house. You moved back into her childhood home, and so every time there's a room in the house and she can't go in it because that's where she used to live. And maybe she knows about the Pet Cemetery because she used to bury shit in the Pet Cemetery herself. Like, tie it all in. Wrap it up all together. Don't just throw random shit in the movie and see if it works. Don't just keep combining the same dumb shit into the same film. Anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Probably nobody subscribed after this. They were like, man, he's really angry. And it's like, watch 3 Pet Cemetery films back to back knowing you still got a 4th one coming up and see what kind of mental state you're in by the 3rd film. Anyway. That's it for me. I have a website, macromovieguy.com. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, or Threads at macromovieguy. You can go to the audio description project, adp.acb.org. It'll let you know what has audio description and where you can watch it. And you can go to theadna.org and it'll let you know who's narrating your favorite films and television series. That's it for me today. I will watch something else and review it and see you guys on the other side.